Detroit Edison is Michigan's largest utility, serving more than 1.9 million customers in southeast Michigan. To ensure an uninterrupted supply of fuel for its power plants, it employs a fleet of 3,288 rotary dump high-side gondolas. At Millbury, Ohio, we see a UDM train on the final run to Toledo. The train will turn north at Toledo for the run to the power plant at Monroe, Michigan. Detroit Edison receives coal from both the western and eastern coal fields. These maps portray the typical cycle of loads and empties as they transverse the western and eastern routes. The coal is delivered by railroads such as Burlington Northern, Union Pacific, Chicago and Northwestern, Grand Trunk, Conrail, Norfolk Southern, and CSX. Detroit Edison's Monroe Power Plant is situated on the west shore of Lake Erie at Monroe, Michigan. This 4-unit plant was constructed in the late 1960s, with the first unit synchronized to the Edison system in 1971. The plant burns 28,000 tons of blended coal per day and generates 3,000 megawatts of electricity per hour. This coal is delivered primarily by rail, requiring the huge fleet of gondola cars and a fleet of 22 Detroit Edison locomotives, as well as locomotives supplied by the railroads which serve Detroit Edison. During the navigation season, some coal is delivered by lake boats. The plant currently blends 3 types of coal, which is stored in specific areas under the Tripper Car Gallery, the long elevated structure which appears in the center of the picture. Loaded trains enter the plant in front of the buildings to the left rear, take the right leg of a Y, and loop around the Tripper Gallery in a large circle. A train can be seen on this loop. Once the train transverses the loop, the cars are ready to dump. Detroit Edison's pioneer programs in burning low-sulfur western coal blended with mid-sulfur coals provides an optimum balance between environmental protection and production efficiencies. The dumper house is visible just to the rear of the 2 buildings connected by the angled conveyor. A string of gondolas is visible running through the dumper house. Between 1970 and 1975, 504 aluminum-bodied 125-ton capacity high-side gondolas were obtained to ensure the Monroe plant received a steady supply of coal. A Detroit Edison 140-car train arrives at the Monroe plant. Initially, there were 3 of these trains in operation between Monroe and a mine in West Virginia. Note the internal bracing that is found in the car body. Three more Detroit Edison GE U-30Cs provide the mid-train power. Before the train is dumped, any railroad-owned locomotives in the consist are switched out. The clearance constraints limit the locomotives that will fit through the dumper. Once the railroad-owned locomotives are clear, the GEs back up to the train. Before the cars are unloaded, the Edison road units are fueled, sanded, and inspected. They will then be ready to go back on the road as soon as dumping is complete. The mid-train units are also serviced when they reach the service facility. While at the plant, the trains are handled by Edison Coal employees. As we look through the dumper house from the lead unit, you can see the car clamps and car positioning arm being exercised.
There's the green light.
Oh, yeah.
The train slowly inches its way through the dumper house. The equipment operator positions the first car for dumping. Once the car dumper operator is satisfied that all phases of the dumping sequence are normal, the equipment operator will leave the locomotives to perform other work. The dumper house operator controls the entire dumping operation. This is an automatic operation for the most part, with the operator visually inspecting the car and ensuring the positioning arm has spotted the car correctly. The operator will press a control button to operate the dumper. Here we see the wheel locking devices being disengaged to allow the positioning device to move the cars forward. The positioning arm moves the entire train, including the locomotives. Once the cars are locked into position for dumping, the arm will move back to the next car. Once the car is dumped, the process repeats itself until the last car is ready for dumping. The last car is spotted manually by the locomotive. The car in the dumper is clamped down against the rails to prevent derailment. Blocking will simultaneously move to the side of the car for additional support while being dumped. The top clamps that hold the car in place descends as the car starts to rotate. On a typical day, the view from the outside of the dumper house will show train after train being unloaded. The 125-ton capacity gondolas are unique in that they operate in pairs. The blue end cars have rotary couplers at both ends, while the silver or aluminum cars have standard couplers at either end. The coal is dumped into a hopper that is located over a conveyor belt. The belt will eventually move the coal to the correct area of the coal pile for storage. Detroit Edison unit trains moved 19,300,000 tons of coal in 1993, logging in 312,774,000 car miles. All rail Appalachian coal accounted for 5,900,000 tons and in excess of 20 million car miles. The all-rail Western coal, which moves via Chicago, totaled 3,200,000 tons, which is in excess of 256 train loads. The scrapers and bulldozers move coal away from under the tripper car gallery for storage. The coal is reclaimed from storage as needed to feed the ever-hungry generators. The coal is kept watered to ensure a minimum amount of coal dust. The coal blend is changed several times a day to accommodate the changing power requirements of Detroit Edison's customers. At times, Detroit Edison requires additional rail cars and will negotiate the use of third-party rail cars to ensure timely coal deliveries. These Burlington Northern hopper cars are unloading on the Monroe unloading loop. As we swing around the loop, the dumper house becomes visible. Detroit Edison has a locomotive fleet of 10 GE U30C locomotives and 6 EMD SD40 locomotives. A repair shop is located at the Monroe plant for all servicing and repairs. Car repairs are done off-site. Here in Pennsylvania, a car repair facility switches some DE cars around and will eventually replace the wheels on the trucks of one car. The car is first jacked up using an air-powered jack. The brake rigging is disconnected and the wheels are removed. New wheels are then brought over from the storage area. A westbound UDM train was caught by Emery Gulash's camera on Conrail trackage at Oak Avenue in Toledo, Ohio. After passing under the former Pennsylvania-Detroit Railroad bridges, the train will cross the Maumee River. On another day, we catch a Powder River Basin coal train with Burlington Northern units heading northbound on Conrail's Detroit line. This train operates on BN's Conrail corridor to Chicago. The coal will be delivered to Monroe or Trenton Channel power plants. Further north, we catch our western turn on the Monroe Industrial going toward the plant. There are 2,372 of the 108-ton capacity yellow-ended aluminum high-side gondolas in the Detroit Edison fleet. Here we see a loaded Conrail train north of Alexis Tower. The train is destined for either Trenton Channel or Monroe power plants. We are at Oak Harbor, Ohio, where a northbound Norfolk Southern train crosses over Conrail's water-level route. The head hoppers are carrying coke to McLouth Steel in Trenton, Michigan. The rear part of the train has coal for the Monroe Power Plant. This coal will be interchanged at Toledo, Ohio, to the Grand Trunk Western for delivery to the Monroe or River Rouge plant. The 100-ton capacity yellow end steel cars are identical in length to the 108-ton capacity aluminum body cars. This northbound CSX coal train near Lemoyne, Ohio, is headed to Toledo. The train will interchange to the Grand Trunk Western for delivery to either the Monroe or River Rouge plants. Shortly, the train will meet a southbound CSX grain train. We are at Vienna, Michigan, on the former Detroit, Toledo, and Shoreline Railroad. Here we catch a northbound Grand Trunk coal train. These red-end steel body cars have a 100-ton capacity and are more than 18 inches longer than the yellow-end cars. Not all Detroit Edison Western coal comes from mines on the Burlington Northern. Some Western coal comes from mines served by the Chicago and Northwestern. Here we see a Conrail train off the CNW with CNW C40-8s. The train is rolling north through Erie Township, Michigan, and heading to the Monroe plant. The Chicago and Northwestern train completes its journey as it arrives at the Monroe power plant. Burlington Northern's SD60M Desert Storm locomotive operates through from Wyoming to Monroe. Here we see it on Conrail's Detroit line at Erie Township, Michigan. Next, we catch the locomotive as it enters the Monroe plant. This BN power was delivered from EMD in this patriotic paint scheme. The Conrail crew has gotten off, and the Edison crew will replace the railroad-owned locomotives with those of Detroit Edison's. With the locomotive change complete, Detroit Edison's U-30Cs pull the train into the dumper. These 3 locomotives will not be taking the train out on the road, so they won't have to be serviced before the train is dumped. Having completed dumping, the BN train is soon hustling back west for another load of coal. Just south of the spur leading to the Monroe Power Plant, a Grand Trunk Western train heads south with a train of empties. The train is destined for Lang Yard in Toledo. The cars will return to the Appalachian coal fields by way of Norfolk Southern or CSX. The cars on the siding are spares that will be placed on either eastern or western trains. After the Grand Trunk train passes, we catch a view of a loaded GTW train with Burlington Power waiting for clearance. The train will enter the Monroe plant. We are at Rising Sun, Ohio. These Detroit Edison empty gondolas are headed southbound on CSX. These are lightweight aluminum cars, so only one C40-8 locomotive is needed to get this empty train over the road. We are at milepost 40 on Conrail's Detroit line. An empty UDM train heads south to Toledo. Then it will head west to Wyoming. The train is running on Conrail tracks. This location at milepost 40 is named CP LaSalle and is located just south of the Monroe plant. In the fading evening light, Emery Gulash caught an empty UDM train with all 5 Detroit Edison units on the point. The train is returning to the mine for more Pennsylvania coal. On the ex-Monongahela Railway's West Brownsville branch, we catch an empty Detroit Edison train proceeding south at West Brownsville. mid-train helpers next roll onto the street trackage. This location is one of few left in the country where one can find heavy trains rolling down the main street of a town. One of the most modern mines in the country supplies coal to Detroit Edison. It is the Bailey Mine, located near Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. The branch was also part of the Monongahela Railway branch known as the Manor Branch. It was constructed at significant cost with long, high fills and many bridges. The tracks completely loop around the mine at this point. This is one of many picturesque bridges on the Manor Branch. And here's a portion of the high fill required to get the tracks up to the Bailey Mine. Consolidated Coal owns the Bailey Mine. The mine shafts to the right feed storage silos to the left. This Detroit Edison train roars up the grade toward the mine. Mid-train helpers assist the empty 120-car train with no wasted time. The train slows as it approaches the switch at the beginning of the loop. The train passes under a mine road and through a large culvert. Located on the loading loop is the silo where the coal will be flood-loaded into the cars. Loading for this long train will take 5.5 to 6 hours. But first, the gondola cars must pass inspection by a number of video cameras. All these cars are inspected to assure no foreign debris has been thrown or discarded into any car. Once the cars have all been checked out, the train will back up and align the first car for loading. The loading chute is rolled into position. The train will not stop for this one-man loading operation. It'll move through the loading process at less than 1/2 mile per hour. The coal is supplied by 2 chutes. Here provides the tapered form to the coal. Here we see the loading chute providing the bottom portion of the load. One man controls the loading of the cars, as well as the coal belts feeding the silo from the tipple. We are high up at the Midwest Energy Resource Company located in Superior, Wisconsin. A Burlington Northern train approaches Midwest Energy, also known as MERC. BN delivers 10,800,000 tons of Powder River Basin coal to this facility annually. The BN train is unloading coal, which is conveyed up to the tripper car gallery, the same system used at the Monroe plant. The coal drops to the coal piles below and is quickly smoothed out by the bulldozers.
Ready.
From high up in the tripper car gallery, we get a grand view of the boat loading facilities. When a boat arrives for loading, the bulldozers push the coal toward the tripper car gallery, where a reclaiming conveyor carries the coal to the dock. It is early morning, and we are on the lake boat Walter J. McCarthy, owned by the American Steamship Company. This boat is 1,000 feet long and can carry 60,000 tons of coal. The coal is carefully loaded on the boat from bow to stern and port to starboard to prevent damage to the hull. The boat's self-unloading boom is swung away to allow the dock boom to load the hold at the stern end. Let's take a look at the equipment necessary to load the coal.
What'd you say? I'll be right back. Give me a minute. I'll pick you guys up.
The loading boom position is controlled by an operator on the boat's deck. He controls the boom with a small remote control board. Loading is done at a rate of 11,500 tons per hour. Once the boat is loaded, the boom moves off the boat and the deckhands begin the process of securing the hatch covers. The hatch cover crane moves the hatches into position.
What's he doing? Unclamping the,
When they put these covers down, then you see these.
Move their hands.
While a boat is being loaded at the dock, an empty Detroit Edison train departs the terminal headed by a couple of BN SD60Ms. Detroit Edison has 11 train sets in service to Midwest Energy. Each train consists of 115 108-ton aluminum body cars. It takes an average of 4.5 to 5 days to complete one cycle from mine to dock to mine. Here we see a train heading to Midwest Energy from the Powder River Basin. The St. Clair Power Plant is located in St. Clair, Michigan, on the St. Clair River. This plant has 7 units and can generate megawatts of electricity. 85% of the coal received here is western coal and is stored in the South Hopper. The North Hopper is smaller and is used to store eastern coal. The Bell River Power Plant is located about a mile west of the St. Clair plant. Bell River burns 100% western coal for its 2 650-megawatt units. The St. Clair plant uses a mixture of 80% western and 20% eastern coal. Both plants share a common coal handling system that uses 22 miles of conveyor belts to handle 8 million tons of coal a year. At the St. Clair Power Plant, we see the Paul R. Tregurtha arrive and dock. This boat is 1,013 and a half feet long and can carry 60,500 tons of coal. It is part of the Interlake Steamship Company managed by Pickeno Mather and Company. A boat of this size takes about 8 to 10 hours to unload. The deckhands are using a landing boom and bosun's chair to swing from the boat to the dock. Before loading commences, a control cord is connected between the Edison coal handling system and the boat's unloading system. With this connection, should the Edison conveyor trip out, the boat's conveyor will also stop. Boats can take on fuel and potable water at the Edison dock while they await unloading. The boat's unloading conveyor is raised and will be swung to the Dole hopper, and once in position, unloading can begin. Detroit Edison is committed to protecting the environment while providing affordable electrical energy to Southeast Michigan. Detroit Edison, a pioneer in shipper-owned trains, a pioneer in Western coal development, all of this to provide low-cost electricity to southeastern Michigan. A Conrail train meets a Detroit Edison train heading to Bailey Mine. Our last look at Detroit Edison's unit train operations.